actually in a new place. You might have heard us on Radio 1190 in Boulder, Colorado, but we're here in Studio Place, LA. And we're super excited to be here today because we're in the heart of the NBA playoffs, and we're extremely excited to talk about some of the matchups that have been going on, and the NBA final matchup has been figured out. The Golden State Warriors are playing the Boston Celtics, and it's going to be a great matchup. But before we get into the NBA Finals, we want to do some recap on the Golden State Warriors against the Dallas Mavericks.
By the way, side note, I'm Adam Laub. This is Nicole Laub. We're twins in the heart of Los Angeles, California, at Studio Place. Thank you so much, Andy, for having us on here. So now the recap of the playoffs.
Definitely. So Golden State Warriors, a lot of people last year kind of ruled them out after pretty much the team was entirely injured the whole time. And this season, Klay Thompson came back, and honestly, they look like the best team in the NBA right now.
As I predicted, the Golden State Warriors are in the finals, and they will win the NBA championship.
I totally disagree, but we can get into that later. I think the Golden State Warriors had the easiest path to the finals. Ja Morant, when they played second round, they played Ja Morant and the Grizzlies, and Ja Morant was injured in game 2.
That's what happens in the playoffs.
I guess that's true. Part of being a good team is staying healthy, as the Warriors know with Klay injured last year. But for the Western Conference Finals, Golden State Warriors faced the Dallas Mavericks. I don't even know why we call them the Mavericks. We should just call them the Dallas Luka Doncic, because he pretty much carries the entire team.
Yes. I wrote some notes down for this. Luka Doncic, everyone knows him. He's 23 years old, from Latvia, I believe. He's a star.
I don't think he's from Latvia, but I guess we can roll with it.
Let me check. Look, everyone makes mistakes. He's from Slovenia. Sorry, he's from Slovenia. He's an unbelievable player. I mean, 23 years old. It's unreal. The Warriors were playing a box and one on him, and they were mixing up matchups,
well, for
playing
those
zone.
who don't know, what is a box and one?
A box and one is when one player guards the best player on the other team, on the opposing team, then the other 4 players are on the top of the key on one side. They're in a zone, and they're playing like 4. It's kind of hard to explain unless you see it actually if you see it on TV or in person. But anyway, they were just guarding Luka Doncic and not really focusing on anyone else, and it really worked out well for the Warriors. Their defense was amazing.
I mean, the bottom line is Warriors, you see Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond. You look at the Boston Celtics, it's Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart. They have those stars, and the Mavericks just didn't have that. I was impressed with how far they were able to make it. Beating the Suns was extremely impressive.
Beating the Suns was extremely impressive, getting them to Game 7. The Suns, I mean, I don't even think we talked about that in our last podcast, but everyone thought the Suns were going to make the finals pretty easily. Like, it would be a Warriors-Suns conference final. The Suns really just did not play well in that Game 7 and really disappointed everyone and really surprised everyone, and whoever was watching and whoever was a basketball and Woody's help and Brunson's help. With the Warriors series, though, I think Luka also had his issues too. I think the reason why they weren't able to get to Game 6 or Game 7 was because of Luka.
I mean, the Warriors' defense alone is just stopping Luka.
Right.
They're one of the, I'd say, top 3 defenses in the league, and to be able to stop such a player like Luka kind of reminds me of when the Warriors played the Houston Rockets and they were trying to stop James Harden and Paul, that is, and they eventually won that finals too. But the bottom line is the Warriors are able to shut down key guys, which just makes me think, are they going to be able to do the same for Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown?
I do think so.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, also with Luka, I know you had that thing to say. I do think Luka was playing too slow paced at times. He was slowing down the game.
I think he's also out of shape. I think he needs to start working out
I
more
agree
and
with
work
that.
on his conditioning.
And his defensively, Luka Doncic is not a good player defensively. He really needs to work on that game to have his team win basketball games and make it further into the playoffs. Even though he did make the Western Conference Finals, you can't only rely on offense. You have to also play defense, and he was not doing that, and he needs to work on that part of his game and start focusing on defense, because defense wins basketball. And clearly, as we can see with the Warriors and the Celtics in the finals, defense wins. Those are the two probably best defensive teams other than the Heat that are in the finals, and that's just how basketball is going now. It's the NBA is turning into a defense more. I mean, the offense.
Defense just wins championships. I think that applies to most sports. And honestly, I agree. Luka needs to improve his defense and conditioning. And honestly, I think the Mavericks have a shot of making it to the Western Conference Finals time and time again. I just think they need that one additional star to help Luka out, or just even getting better role players.
Right. It wasn't Kristaps Porzingis, that's for sure.
We do not like Kristaps. No. Of a team the Warriors are, because let's face it, the Mavericks they made it to the Western Conference Final, but it didn't feel like the Warriors had an even match with that matchup. Like, it almost felt like the Warriors were walking into the finals, and
the Warriors
they get so lucky.
I don't know if they get lucky. I think it's just they're so good that we don't really appreciate how easy they make winning look easy. I think that's the real reason why that's why like you're complaining. I think no matter what situation, even with Ja Morant playing, I still think they would have won that series, and I still think they would have beaten the Mavericks in the fashion that they did. I just think they're so well rounded. They're such a good team that that's just how this was going to be. And I told you like 2 months ago this was going to happen, and it actually did happen, which I'm really surprised about.
I told you so moments.
But I did tell you so.
But I think the Warriors ball movement also reminds me of the San Antonio Spurs. Just Steve Kerr, the way he coaches them is perfect. You see some of the plays that they run. Jordan Poole's getting thrown around like a loop by Steph Curry to get open.
It's amazing to watch.
Just the development of Jordan Poole himself. I think he's going to be the X factor for honestly many years to come, and in the and in the finals. I mean,
the Warriors' development. Even there's 19-year-olds on the team playing, like Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga, who are like guys that are 3 years younger than us, and that's insane. And they're playing in the NBA Finals. They have James Wiseman, who they drafted number 3 or number 2 overall, and he's not even on the bench because he's like in the G League. They
drafted LaMelo Ball.
I don't think they need it. They don't need to. I mean, they have James Wiseman developing and not even on the bench. Because he's in the G League, just hanging out and doing his time there. That's how good the Warriors are, and that's how good their organization is. It's just better than anyone else right now.
And just to shout Kevin Durant, honestly, probably the best player on the roster when he was on the team, is extremely impressive. But they have done it before, Kevin Durant, and it's almost funny in a way that him and Kyrie both left their teams to get on the Nets. Kyrie played on the Celtics, Kevin Durant on the Warriors.
Up in Brooklyn, Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant teamed up in Brooklyn, and now the teams that they left are both in the finals, which is what no one really expected. And it's really cool because the Brooklyn Nets are really a disaster right now and completely discombobulated, and they don't really know what's going on. And no one really knows what's going on there. There's constant drama. Kyrie with COVID, Kevin Durant being Kevin Durant on Twitter. I mean, it's just a complete disaster in Brooklyn. And the teams that they left, I love that. I think that's great for the NBA. I think the NBA is it's like the perfect story, because it's like the heroes that are going to go to Brooklyn and like win one, and then actually the teams that they leave step up and are right back into the championship. It's pretty awesome.
I just think, honestly, the series is going to be extremely fun to watch. I think two defenses just playing with all-out intensity. When you look at guys like Marcus Smart, even Jason Tatum, your stars being able to play such good defense, and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green on the other end on the Warriors. Yep. I just think it's going to be the most fun series to watch. I kind of knew that the Celtics would win, as did Draymond Green in a way. Yeah, he actually said that. He said that when they won their series, closed it out against the Mavericks. Someone on ESPN asked him, well, who are you guys going to play? Who do you think you're going to play in the finals? And he's like, I mean, we're going to play the Celtics. And then basically the Heat ended up winning game 6 and kind of used Draymond's comments as inspiration, as they should. No one wants to hear from Draymond Green that they're going to lose. So I honestly respect the Miami Heat for showing up in Boston and winning game 6, forcing it to a game 7.
Yeah, the Heat Celtics series was one of the weirdest series I've ever experienced watching in my life and ever seen in my life. It was just both, I get, as you said, Boston 1-3 at home, Heat 1-3 at home. It doesn't. Well, they weren't 1-3.
There was no such thing as a home court advantage in this series, and it was probably the most lopsided series we've ever seen, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
And I think, honestly, it kind of made it fun. You had no clue which team was going to show up on any given day. And I think that's kind of part of basketball. As everyone says, the basketball is just a game of runs, and clearly just a team would just go off for score 20 points and then just be up 20. I don't know.
I mean,
whatever
teams,
it may be.
they would go on major runs and they'd be down like 30 points like that, and it wouldn't really be a game for the rest of the game. It would just be maintaining the lead, like Boston going up by 25 and then just maintaining that lead throughout the game until the Heat make a little run in the fourth quarter, and then the game ends up looking closer than it actually was. And the same thing going for the Heat beating the Celtics. It wasn't really every game was just like a completely different book. It wasn't even like a chapter. It was just like literally a completely different book. It was
like your analogy, throwing some books in there.
You gotta throw some books.
Just graduate college, so that's good that you know something about books.
That's true. I mean, the first game, 118-107, it was definitely just not really a game. No one really talked about that game. Then the next one was 127-102, which is a complete blowout by the Celtics. 109-103, the Heat won the next game. I think the Celtics made a little run late in the fourth quarter, but the game was pretty much over. It was the reason why I think the series was like this was because both teams are so good defensively. The Heat are an unbelievable defensive team, and they're so physical, but the Celtics are also just as physical and even better defensively. I mean, as we see.
The Celtics are also extremely young. I think that plays a big factor.
Yes, and also the Heat didn't have those offensive weapons that the Celtics have. The Heat, Tyler Hero was out games 4, 5, and 6, I think, and they lost. And once he got back in game 7 last night, he just looked not in rhythm. He was
but let's talk game 7. Honestly, game 7, those 2 words are the best words in sports.
Best 2 words in sports.
It's so fun to watch a game 7. I know we forced our mom. We told her we need to be home at this time to be able to watch game 7
and I wasn't home, of course, because she had to be in the TJ Maxx line trying to get me to get some hangers.
Throwing out TJ Maxx as a shout out on Twin Sports Talk. I guess you really can expect anything here.
Yes, you can.
But with game 7, honestly, right out the gate, the Boston Celtics showed up on Miami's home court and just never gave up the lead. They had the lead the entire game. Started out 9-1. I mean, first half, I would say, of basketball definitely sets the tone for what the game's going to be like. And even the first couple minutes, you can kind of tell which team is showing up right out the gates. And the Celtics did that. They were up 24-9. And then, honestly, the Heat made a comeback. They got the lead down to 6. Extremely surprised.
Everyone
the way the Heat were playing, it was awful. I thought they were going to lose by 30 within the first couple minutes, just seeing how they were playing, and it almost looked like they were not giving their full effort.
They were injured. They're also a little bit of, not an excuse, but they were injured. They're also older. They're fatigued. Like, the Celtics are young. They're all 23 to 25 years old. Obviously, there's some Al Horfords in there that are like upwards of 30. Al Horford's 35, but it was meant to be that the Celtics would win this game. I feel like I think it was the better team won in the end, and that was away from home, which is even more impressive in a game 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals. I do like to look at the fans too and see home court advantages. I do believe since LeBron James left the Heat, this is me on rec, this is me just saying that this is my take. Since LeBron James left the Heat, I feel like Heat fans are just not nearly as they're not as good. They're not as loud. They're not as into the game as they once were with LeBron and the big three.
Actually.
I was looking at the fans. They're not the same as Celtics fans or Knicks fans if they were in the same situation. I'm sorry.
I mean, Madison Square Garden and the fans there, you can't compare that to other fans, in my opinion. Fans were pretty loud during that game. I think they got them back into it. When they were cutting it down to 8, you could hear the Miami fans like as if they were the Heat were winning the game. So I think they definitely played more of a factor than I originally thought, just because the Celtics have had such success on the road in Miami.
Yep.
But honestly, I think the Heat honestly being behind the entire game, that's so tough to try to come back. And they honestly had a shot to win at the end of the game.
They did.
Jimmy Butler got the ball with 20 seconds left, dribbling down the court. Al Horford's backpedaling. I could all see it in my head. I can tell you every detail. He's backpedaling. Jimmy Butler pulls up from 3. Everyone, it almost felt like it was going in slow motion. We both thought it was going in. Yeah. Hit the front rim, and the Celtics got the rebound. And that was pretty much from there. If you're pretty like big basketball fan, you know that's the game and the Celtics won it. That shot determined it all.
If you know the art of basketball and you follow basketball, that's pretty much game over. If Jimmy Butler drove instead of tried to,
and everyone's
hit that
debating that too. Honestly, I think that's the right shot.
I think he was trying to win. He was trying to win the game, and I don't blame him for trying to win the game. To be honest, I think his team wanted to take that shot. I just saw something on him saying like my team wanted I wanted to win, and my team doesn't blame me for taking that shot, so I'm fine with it.
And
I'm fine with that too.
He was playing the entire game. In my opinion, he probably thought I probably don't have much left in the tank. I should probably just take this shot and see what happens.
Yep. I mean, he did have an unbelievable second quarter. He scored 18 points in the second quarter, Jimmy Butler. I keep saying to everyone that I speak to about sports, I'm like, I think Jimmy Butler's a little overrated. And then every time I say Jimmy Butler's a little overrated, he drops 45 points in the playoffs. And then the next game, he'll score like 11 points and then be like, and we'd like, is this the same person that we have been like watching play? It doesn't really make sense, but this time he actually had 2 good games in a row. But the Celtics just outlasted him. We haven't even spoken about the Celtics, but Jason Tatum, he's clearly a star now. Now it's in the books. Now that he's in the finals, Jaylen Brown's one of the most underrated players in the NBA. He was averaging 25 points per game. That series.
No one thought that duo would work. I think a lot of people were saying Jaylen Brown can't play with Jason Tatum, and honestly, I think they've been using that to almost bond on the fact that so many people didn't think it would work out. And I think it's awesome that they're both 2 young stars, both putting up pretty much 25 points in game 7. I honestly thought Jaylen Brown played better than Jason Tatum in game 7.
I think Jaylen Brown should have won that. I don't even know why this is a thing, but the Eastern Conference MVP.
I think it's kind of cool. I think it's cool. I think
it's pointless.
It's also named after Larry Bird.
I know, Larry Bird and Magic Johnson.
Eastern Conference Finals MVP. That's a mouthful to say.
I think Tatum had an on and off series as well, and I think Jaylen Brown was way more consistent than Jason Tatum ever was in this series. So I do think Jaylen Brown should have won the MVP, but Jason Tatum winning it is way better for the NBA in terms of marketing and like money generation, like all the money and everything that they would get from that. I think Tatum is definitely the better choice for the NBA because they're trying to make him the next possible face of the NBA. And now that LeBron is slowly, possibly retiring sooner than we actually think.
Don't talk about LeBron like that. But honestly, I think Jimmy Butler could have won that MVP for the Eastern Conference Finals. He was carrying his team. At least Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have each other to, help out if, let's say, one of them isn't having the best game. Who did Jimmy Butler, Adebayo, and Kyle Lowry, along with Victor Oladipo?
I mean, he had these.
But I don't think he had another true star.
Correct. I agree. The Heat developmental system too in that organization is insanely good. They get guys from the G League coming up all the time. Max Strus, Gabe Vincent is another one. There's also a center on their team, which I can't remember their name right now. But Gabe Vincent and Max Strus are both playing very significant minutes in the Eastern Conference Finals, and we haven't even heard of these guys ever. We would never hear them other than if they were on the Heat. The Heat is just that type of team. Eric Spoelstra is just that type of coach that gets players players that we never heard of, and we probably will. Like Eric Spoelstra gets these guys to make 20 million, like to sign big contracts on different teams, because that's just the type of coach he is.
And I think being able to be a team like that, build from the bottom up, that's huge.
Huge.
And I think honestly, you can compare them almost to the Golden State Warriors. They developed Jordan Poole. He was a G League player and probably should have won the most improved player in the NBA. I still don't understand how Ja Morant won that. But regardless, I think you're right. A team that's able to do that, they're going to have success long term. And you've seen that. Even when LeBron left, they were in the playoffs a couple years, I don't even remember. I think the next year after he left, they were still in the playoffs. So you can see the intensity that Miami players have, and it's so fun to see.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing to watch. It's, I think the Heat in general are a great organization. That's what I like. And as we can see, most of these teams that are in the playoffs, deep in the playoffs, they didn't trade for players and make these super teams. They home grew these players. They drafted them and then built them and helped them develop into the team that they are. And I think team chemistry matters a lot more in the NBA than we think, because the Boston Celtics, they've drafted all their players and they became, and all those players.
And I think that's awesome. I think when a team kind of trades, you look at the Lakers, that did not work out at all.
No, it doesn't really work out.
I think it's so fun when you see them get drafted and then just develop into stars. And what the Boston Celtics did they traded down for their pick to get Jason Tatum over Markelle Fultz and Lonzo Ball. That was the best move they probably have ever made.
That was one of the best moves. I mean,
if you just redraft that whole class, I'd take Jason Tatum or Donovan Mitchell number one.
Jason Tatum's number one. Donovan Mitchell's number two. Yeah. Markelle Fultz is not even in the realm of 10. I don't
even know. Is he on the Orlando Magic?
Yeah, he's in the Magic now. Yeah,
that's
crazy.
On
the Magic now.
That's such a good, and now they have Brad Stevens, their former head coach, as the GM. We saw last night he was on the floor celebrating with the Celtics.
I also think we should give some credit to Ime Udoka, the Boston Celtics head coach. I mean, he was the turnaround that the Celtics made and right after the All-Star break was one of the best turnarounds in NBA history. Now that they're in the finals, the
intensity that they're playing with now, it just seems completely different. Right. And honestly, we can attribute that to the coach.
They had a losing record, I'm pretty sure, going in into the All-Star break.
18-21. I think it's the first time a team that was under 500 during the regular season made it to the NBA Finals.
That's unbelievable.
And they were I think you were just going to touch on this. They were 26-6 to end the season.
To end the season.
The momentum that they had there clearly showed and carried them through the playoffs.
And I do think Ime Udoka should get a lot of credit, a good amount of credit for that. He's an unbelievable coach in his first year, by the way. That's his first year as a head coach in the NBA.
It's crazy.
For the Boston Celtics, and he made the finals. That is unbelievable. That's unheard of in the NBA world. I think Ime Udoka should get a lot more credit than what we're hearing. He probably should have won Coach of the Year. Now thinking about it, I think they do that award. I think Monty Williams should not have won Coach of the Year.
I mean, I think if they do it based on playoff performance, a lot would be different.
Yeah, but I still think Ime Udoka, the turnaround that the Celtics made, I think that definitely has to do with coaching. And I see the way he coaches, he seems like a laid-back coach, similar to Steve Kerr, Popovich style, where it's just like you let the players.
I don't know how laid-back Greg Popovich is. I see him screaming at everyone anytime any player.
He doesn't scream at players.
I don't know about that. Are you in the huddle?
That's true.
But before we talk about the finals matchup, I just want to touch on the Celtics revenge tour. I think whoever came up with that saying is just a genius. In 2019, they were knocked out of the playoffs in the second round by the Milwaukee Bucks. What did they do this year? They knocked them out in the second round of the NBA playoffs. Then in 2020, they played Miami in the first round. And what did the Celtics do this time? They knocked them out in the Eastern Conference Finals. And then finally, the first team that they played, the Celtics, last year in 2021 was this year they played the Brooklyn Nets. You're really messing me up there. They're playing the Brooklyn Nets, and they beat for that series, because the Celtics this year were the 2 seed and the Nets were the 7 seed. Last year was flipped. The Celtics were the 7th seed, Nets being the 2 seed. I just love to watch Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, all these young players.
Grant Williams.
Be one of the Grant Williams. Be all the top players in the NBA. Look at who they played. Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jimmy Butler, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. It's crazy the journey that they had to take to get to the NBA finals.
They had by far the hardest path to the finals. Also, sweeping Brooklyn, that is unbelievable how they did that so easily with Kevin Durant and Kyrie playing every game too. They're just a great team. I think that's the difference between like good teams and great teams.
I also
they play as a team, rather than selfishly. Jason Tatum passes the ball,
and that showed too last night.
It showed heavily last night. Jason Tatum knows how to pass the ball. He used to not be as mature as a player, and he's way better defensively now. He focused on his defense and his passing. The scoring has always been there for Jason Tatum. Jaylen Brown as well. I mean, he does have a little bit of a turnover issue, it seems like, but Jaylen Brown's a great scorer and an unbelievable defender. Grant Williams helps out on the bench every single night. I mean, the Celtics have such a good team. They're unselfish.
And Al Horford.
Al Horford, unbelievable player still. I
just think they completely exposed the Brooklyn Nets. Like I thought in the regular season, like Kyrie and KD finally figured it out. Kyrie's playing. But honestly, in the playoffs, they just did not really fully show up. And honestly, that's credited to Boston's defense. Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum on Kevin Durant. He was shutting him down. Kevin Durant, who's arguably one of the best scorers of all time.
He is the best scorer of all time.
Sure.
No doubt.
We can say that. I mean, I think it's pretty
He's the most talented scorer. It's not even arguable.
Okay. That's just your opinion, though. But honestly, I think just him being able to shut down Kevin Durant, who's way taller than him, a 7-footer, who normally easily scores, pulls up mid-range. He was struggling. If we look at his stats, which I don't know them off the top of my head, but I know that if you look at the field goal percentage when Jason Tatum was guarding him, it was way lower than his averages.
Way lower, 100%. Yeah, no, he was not. Jason Tatum was playing great defense against Kevin Durant. That's for sure. I want to talk about the finals.
Yeah, I mean, that's what everyone wants to talk about. Game 1 is going to be on Thursday, June 2nd.
Tune in
San Francisco.
This is LA, though. This is LA. So the Celtics, best defense in the league. Warriors, best offense in the league, and probably the 3rd best defense. I think the Celtics also have one of the best offenses in the NBA as well. They're both so balanced. They're both such good teams, and there's not one player that really, other than Steph. Look, it's Steph, Tatum. Those are the 2 best players on each team. And
let's think about the matchup. So Steph Curry's probably going to be guarded by Marcus Smart, the Defensive Player of the Year. And then Klay Thompson probably going to be guarded by Jaylen Brown. He's a pretty good defender.
He's a pretty great defender.
The bottom line is it's hard. There's constantly going to be switches. They're going to be setting screens, and it's going to be hard, especially when Warriors play a small ball and they have Jordan Poole in there instead of Kevon Looney. It's really tough to guard them from the outside because you honestly just have to make a sacrifice. Are you going to leave Jordan Poole open, or are you going to leave a wide open layup to Draymond? You kind of just have to decide. And
I think the Celtics small ball lineup, they'll throw Derek White in there, I would believe, and then they'd have Grant Williams as the 5. So that would be their small ball lineup against the Wiggins, Poole, Curry, Thompson. Stepping up defensively. I've seen it. We've seen it in games. He's blocking shots now, which is crazy. It's so funny how he reacts when he gets a blocked shot. He's like standing there taunting.
I mean,
it's
he's
great.
Pretty much the tiniest player on the court.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's so great. And also the 76th year, a Knick.
Oh, I love this stat.
Yeah, this stat is crazy. So for the past 75 years, a former Knick has been in the finals. It doesn't matter. Just
you don't even have to play.
You don't even have to play.
You have to be on the roster.
You don't even have to play. Yeah, you just have to be. Former Knick has been in the finals, and if the Celtics lost, that would end the streak. But thank God Luke Cornett, who's on the Celtics, riding the bench the entire year.
I don't think he's played a single minute.
He's not played a single minute. I mean, he probably did a little bit in the middle of the year, just garbage time or when players were injured. But Luke Cornett, who was a former Knick, is on the Celtics bench. And this is the 76th year that a former Knick has made it to the finals, which is unbelievable. That's the entire history of the NBA right there.
Pretty much. That's insane.
Which is nuts. So I saw actually on TikTok, I was scrolling and they were like, it's already bet on the Celtics. Like it's already known. It's proven history, and it's a proven fact that the Celtics will be making the NBA finals because there is a former Knick on the team. And you know what? They were right.
I mean, I'd rather have the entire Knicks team in the finals than just a single former Knick player.
Yeah.
But I don't know when that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And honestly, I wouldn't have bet on the Celtics necessarily in Game 7. They showed a stat during the game: 77% of the time the home team wins Game 7, and they were able to be in that 23%. Quick math, and I think it's awesome. I think this finals is gonna be really fun, but in my opinion, I think the Golden State Warriors are going to end up on top. I think it's going to take all 7 games to do it, though.
It's going to be a really, really hard-fought series. I do think this game is going to be every single game. I think, unlike these other ones, are going to be pretty close rather than the Heat, Celtics, Mavericks, Warriors series. I think these teams are pretty evenly matched up. I think it's great matchups. I think the Celtics definitely pose more threats than the Heat would have to the Warriors, which isn't great for the Warriors, but at the same time, I do think the Warriors, they have that experience. Though. Way more fun. This is going to be a great series. This will be way more fun and way more entertaining. I do think because the Warriors have that experience in the finals, when everyone's watching, everyone in the world is watching, I think the Warriors will pull this one out in 6 or 7. I do think so.
I think the bottom line is, though, on Thursday, Game 1, I think that's going to be defining the series. If the Celtics lose...
The Warriors are home, though.
I know. But if the Celtics lose, and not by a lot in Game 1, I think they totally have a chance. Will still be up there. Like, we almost won in Golden State. But if the Warriors destroy the Celtics Game 1, in my opinion, pretty much bet on the Warriors because it's over,
right.
Like just mentally for the Celtics. Yeah. And they haven't really had to come back from series that much. I mean, the Miami Heat, I think, were leading 2-1 and they went on to win 2 straight games. But honestly, I think the Celtics really need to come out extremely strong in Game 1. It would mean way more to them to win it than the Golden State Warriors, obviously being on the road too.
Right.
But I think just being like such a young core group of guys, being able to get that first win in the NBA Finals on the biggest stage, then all their confidence is there and they're just going to play even harder for Game 2. So if I'm a Celtics fan, I know that they need Game 1 just because...
We also hate this. We do not like the Celtics because we're Knicks fans, but we are excited.
I don't mind this. I don't mind the Celtics. The Knicks
you hear that right there? Nicole Lau doesn't mind the Celtics.
Yeah, but at least I just don't... Watching the Warriors win time and time again is so boring to me. But, I mean, they're one of the greatest... They're going to go down as one of the greatest teams in just the past 10 years. What they've done is insane. Steph Curry's made the past, 6 out of 8 finals?
This team has made the past 6 out of 8 finals. That's unbelievable as a team. That's crazy. That's Chicago Bulls in the 90s level good. It's now we can say like it's Bulls Warriors, and we don't even know who's like the better team now overall. We never will because
you can't ever know.
I do think the Celtics pose a good amount of threat to the Warriors. I do think the key matchups. I think Wiggins and Draymond Green and Wiggins and Tatum is going to be an unbelievable matchup. I'm not even sure. Is Draymond going to be guarding Tatum, or they're going to keep switching it to confuse Tatum? I think Steve Kerr is already one of the best coaches of all time, and I think he'll have he'll be having like game plans in place that will confuse Tatum and Brown and not really completely switching matchups constantly to keep them on edge, and then they do one thing and then they switch it to Draymond instead, and then it's more physical. They play mind games with you out there on the court, which we don't even realize.
I think honestly they'll have Klay Thompson on Jaylen Brown and Andrew Wiggins on Jason Tatum. I think that makes the most sense.
Nah, it's just going to be constantly
it doesn't
switched.
really matter, though.
I think Steph on Marcus Smart is definitely going to happen.
Yeah.
Draymond on Al Horford, maybe, but Kevon Looney, I don't really know. He's been playing unbelievably well.
I mean, it's hard not to play well when pretty much you have 4 great shooters on the outside, and all you have to do is sit in the paint and make layups. You could do that. I could do that if I was 7 feet tall. So
that's true.
But I think he's developed.
Well.
I think he's developed really well. He's been on the team for several years. So to see him finally score some points as opposed to just being, their key rebounder, that's fun to see. But I honestly would love to see Draymond Green shoot more. I think it's so funny when he shoots threes because he's not nearly as good as when he was shooting in 2015. He's really leveling off as a player, in my opinion.
Yeah,
he is getting older, but that was weird how he said that at the exact same time. But he is him and Jordan Poole just play huge roles because his passing ability is just insane.
Yeah, Draymond Green is...
Him and Steph Curry and Klay all have that connection that is just... You can't really stop it. He's doing dribble handoffs, bounce passes that no one's even predicting.
You have to see it for yourself. The chemistry is just like it's next level chemistry. They don't even need to they don't even need to look at each other to know what Klay Thompson or Steph Curry or Draymond Green is thinking. They just know exactly what to do and when to do it at all times, and that's why they've been to the finals 6 of the past 8 years, because they're just that good. They just have that good of chemistry. I think the Celtics definitely have good chemistry, but I don't think we've ever seen a team that has the chemistry that the Warriors have, and what Steve Kerr's implemented into that team. It's just so easy. It flows so well. You just see the ball movement. It's also what Steve Kerr has seen in his career as a player too. He played for Phil Jackson, and then playing for Greg Popovich on the Spurs, and then he's coaching, and those are the 2 probably best coaches of all time. And then he takes what he learns from there, and then has his own team, and then actually makes a team that's probably the most enjoyable team to watch in the past 25 years, other than the Bulls.
Yeah, I'd argue that he's one of the best. I mean, I think Phil Jackson, former player turned coach. I think Steve Kerr belongs in that category of being one of the best former player turned coaches.
I think he's one of the best. I think he's one of the best coaches ever. I think.
But also, before we say anything else, we have to give congratulations to Al Horford. He's been in the NBA 13 seasons. He's played a bunch of playoff games on several different teams, and he's finally made it over the hump and made it to the NBA Finals.
It's amazing.
I'm hoping the Celtics win. I did say earlier I have Warriors in 7. I'm still undecided. I think I need to see Game 1 first to really know, to see how well the Celtics defend the Warriors, because I think that's literally the entire season.
Yep.
Series is just how well the Celtics can guard. Because let's be real, the Celtics offense, they're going to score. The Warriors defense is really good, and at home with the home fans, it's going to be hard in that environment to play to the best of their ability. But the Celtics have proven it time and time again that they can go on the road and get that victory.
That cross-country flying, that must be
And
rough.
The time zone difference.
Yeah, the time zone difference, those things matter, even though not many people think about that. I think it's just going to be an amazing series to watch. I'm really excited to watch it.
All right, what's your prediction?
I think Warriors in 6.
In 6, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe just to spice it up, I'm gonna say Celtics in 7. Why not?
Wow, and the Warriors at the Chase Center.
Yeah.
That's bold right there.
I think it'll be fun to see. Even if we can get this series out to 6 games, that'll be so fun to watch. I think watching the Warriors go in split.
I think they're gonna split 1-1 in the first 2, and then the Warriors are gonna take. It's gonna be 2-2 in the series, and the Warriors are just gonna win the next 2 games after that. But we'll see.
And also tonight we have the Rangers playing the Hurricanes in Game 7. We've recently been watching.
Yeah, we've been getting
Rangers
into it. We're into hockey. We love hockey now. We are bandwagon fans, but you know what? It's fine to be a bandwagon fan in the NHL.
And we just graduated college. Not much is going on for us right now. We just wanted to watch some sports.
Yeah,
so Game 7, like we said,
tonight
it's
at 5:30
so
Pacific time. That's 8:30 Eastern. 6:30 Mountain. But I think the Hurricanes haven't lost at home in this series yet, so it's not looking great for the Rangers. Even though the Rangers also haven't lost at home, it's just been split 3-3 because both teams have been at home.
I think
3
offensively,
times.
the Rangers just cannot compete with the Hurricanes.
I don't know. We'll see. I really hope the Rangers win, though, because then the Rangers will play the Tampa Bay Lightning, who have won the past 2 Stanley Cups. Tampa Bay is also like an unbelievable team, and I think whoever even wins this series is most likely going to lose to Tampa Bay. But we do have Colorado and Edmonton on the other side, and we are Colorado.
Tongue twister, huh?
Yeah, big one. Nathan MacKinnon's on Colorado's side, who's one of the most talented players I've ever seen play hockey. That one goal that he had, he literally just took a 1-on-5 all the way down, makes an insane deke, and then almost does a tweener, which means like through his legs. It was insane. I'm getting some hockey lingo, throwing some hockey lingo in there.
I see that.
And then Connor McDavid on the other side, who's clearly far and away the best player in the NHL. And from what I've seen, possibly the most talented player in NHL history. I mean, I know everyone thinks Wayne Gretzky, but this guy is the next generation, and he's clearly on a different level. But yeah, Connor McDavid versus Nathan MacKinnon. It's going to be a great series there, too. I really hope Colorado wins, but who knows what happens there.
Imagine if it was Colorado, New York
If it was Colorado
Rangers
versus New York, that'd be so cool and be amazing. But I would have to. That would be crazy.
I'd have to root for the Rangers. I think
of course.
Have to, being from New York. But I know you wanted to touch on the NFL draft.
Yeah, the NFL draft happened on April. This actually it happened over a month ago already.
That's crazy.
Which is crazy.
The first pick was kind of a shock.
Yeah, that was very surprising.
Even I knew Aiden Hutchinson was probably going to be drafted
Aiden Hutchinson,
first overall.
who was the defensive end for the Michigan Wolverines, he was clear far and away like the best prospect, which is what everyone said. All these analysts and all these draft analysts, everyone said Aiden Hutchinson should be number 1 off the board to the Jaguars. But then the Jaguars select Trayvon Walker, who's a defensive end out of Georgia. I guess that was pretty surprising. No one really thought of that. And then Aiden Hutchinson, the next pick, doesn't have to go far from where he was. He was picked to the Lions.
Yeah, he's played in Michigan.
Yeah, he played in Ann Arbor, and now he's just moving to Detroit. Pretty easy. Yeah, and he was in Michigan his whole life, which is crazy. This was one of the deepest drafts. I did touch on this in our last podcast, I'm pretty sure. But this is one of the deepest drafts in a long time. But there's not really like a big quarterback prospect. Malik Willis was the one guy that everyone was talking about, and everyone expected him to go like late round 1 or early second round. But he dropped, I'm pretty sure, to the 4th round. Malik Willis.
What do you think about that? I mean, I understand where Ryan Tannehill's coming, being the starting quarterback the last season. Not here to mentor Malik Willis, but also why not? You might as well just compete. I understand it's a competition for who's going to get the starting job, but also Ryan Tannehill's coming down. Like, his career is kind of winding down. He doesn't have to say that.
No,
like,
he doesn't
there could
need
be an
to say
understanding that he's not really that. He wants to win the position for himself, but he doesn't have to say that.
Ryan Tannehill didn't need to say that, but I think it's just you're going to learn from just playing with him. He doesn't need to thing for himself. I think it wasn't meant to be like an offense.
And I was competing against Ryan Tannehill, I would just use that as fuel. Like, he doesn't want to help me. Okay, I'm going to win the starting job without his help.
Yeah. So Malik Willis dropped. I think Malik Willis will be a decent starting quarterback in the NFL one day, but we'll see. Kenny Pickett also to the Steelers. That's another interesting one. That we can touch on probably in a different episode, because I think we should go like in depth on the NFL draft analysis. But I do want to touch on the New York Twos.
Yeah, try to pronounce our pick's last name.
Kayvon Thibodeau.
Oh, okay, that was easy.
He was the we had the 5th pick and the 7th pick in the NFL draft. We drafted a defensive end out of Oregon, Kayvon Thibodeau, who has that Hollywood factor. He kind of reminds me of like Odell on defense. Just like he's like a good-looking guy who like is just absolutely ripped, and he's probably going to make a big impact for us in the NFL. But he might be a drama queen, which is why I relate it to Odell.
I'd rather have a player that just focused on winning, and I don't care about the Hollywood factor, but I get what you're saying by that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just we'll see. I think hopefully, because I know he was Kayvon Thibodeau. The one knock on him was that he didn't really care that much. He was like already thinking about the NFL when he was in college, and he didn't put his full effort into every single play, which is a big issue. And
that's crazy to still be drafted 5th overall.
Right, that's how much talent he possesses, though. And then number 7, we picked Evan Neal, who's an offensive tackle, left tackle. He's going to be our right tackle.
When we drafted Eric.
I think this guy's different, though. This guy's an Alabama guy.
I never know with offensive linemen how they're going to do, because they could be huge.
I like the pick.
Eric Flowers just did not work out for the Giants at all.
No, but I think Evan Neal was definitely a better prospect than Eric Flowers was, and this was the right pick at the right time for us, and it's a great value pick. He's going to be just set in stone starting at right tackle for us, which is great, and we need to protect Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. The last thing I guess we'll talk about is the French Open, which I'm a huge fan of tennis.
I like tennis.
Yeah, I like watching
fun.
it. I think it's one of the most entertaining things to watch. I don't want to rank them for the audience, but I think it's like basketball, football for things to watch, like basketball, football, and then tennis for me, and then hockey's right below that. I think honestly, these names are hard to pronounce, but Zverev, I think in the quarterfinals, Zverev versus Alcaraz. Carlos Alcaraz, this is a name that everyone should remember. He's 18 years old, and the last tournament he played in Madrid, he beat Rafael Nadal one day, and then the next day he beat Novak Djokovic, and then won the finals the day after, beating, I think, Zverev, that guy. I know Zverev. He's like I think he's from Belgium or Germany, one of the two. But this is the quarterfinals. I think Alcaraz will win that, and then it's Nadal versus Djokovic on the other side, on the same side. So it's going to be an insane match. And then Tsitsipas, I think, just lost. He's a Greek on the other side of the bracket. But Nadal. I just wanted to touch Nadal versus Djokovic. That's coming up. I think it's tomorrow they're playing. I don't know what time, but that's going to be an amazing matchup, and that's just like a historic matchup that I would love to watch. And then Alcaraz, watch out for that guy, Carlos Alcaraz. He's the next one up for in tennis.
Yeah, so lots going on in sports. We're happy to be able to come here and talk about that all today. Got the NBA Finals on deck. We didn't even get to touch on baseball. Mets are doing really well.
Doing
NFL draft, and you wanted to add in the French Open. So
congrats to Real Madrid for winning the Champions League, too.
Champions League. So lots going on here on Twin Sports Talk. Thank you so much for listening. We're so happy to be here.